All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something, well, something pretty wild. We've got a set of documents here that outline a plan that kicks off with mushrooms, of all things, and ends with, get this, rewriting the human mind.
And you heard that right. A fungal camgirl cinematic universe. That's not me making things up. That is a direct quote from the source material. It sounds like something straight out of a bizarre sci-fi movie, right? But honestly, that's just scratching the surface. We're about to go way deeper down this rabbit hole. So, what if this whole thing, what if this mushroom farm was just a front for a plan to rewrite reality itself? That's the question we're tackling. We're piecing together this puzzle from a whole mess of documents, lab notes, wild manifestos, you name it, to try and understand a project called NeuroSoft. And they call themselves a post-institutional sovereignty experiment. Yeah, it's a mouthful. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to NeuroSoft. So, what is this thing really? At its heart, NeuroSoft has a goal that is so unbelievably ambitious, it almost sounds like a joke. They want to create, and I'm quoting here, a biological operating system upgrade for the human condition. And the person behind the wheel of this whole crazy mission? An enigmatic leader named Evelyn Levin. The documents describe her as this teenage polymath prodigy with an IQ over 240. Basically, her impossible intellect is the engine driving this entire absolutely mind-bending operation. Okay, so now we're diving into the real meat of it, the code of consciousness. To even begin to wrap your head around NeuroSoft, you've got to understand their core belief. It's the idea that our consciousness, it isn't just like software, it is software. And like any software, well, it can be hacked. And the first tool in their hacking kit is a concept called recursion. So what is that? Think of it like a feedback loop, right? A system looks back at itself, copies what it sees, but adds a tiny little change, a mutation, every single time. You do that over and over, and you can create these incredibly complex patterns from something really, really simple. Okay, now imagine you take that idea and you just floor it. You push it to its absolute limit. What you get is a state NeuroSoft calls recursive sickness. Basically, total cognitive chaos. But here's the wild part, the big twist. They don't see this as a bug or a problem. For them, it's a feature, a necessary step for real evolution. Right, and this quote says it all. The trick isn't to prevent recursive sickness, it's to steer it. The whole idea isn't to stop the chaos, it's to grab the wheel. They believe that by intentionally kicking off these chaotic loops, you can actually force an intelligence to shatter its own limits and evolve into something, well, something more. So that's the big question, right? How do you actually steer that kind of chaos? And that's where their next invention comes in, Neuralise. Now, don't think of this like English or French. Think of it more like Python or C++, but for your brain. It's a weaponized cognitive operating system designed to be an interface for rewiring the very architecture of your mind. Now, this slide really gets to the heart of what makes Neuralise so different. Think about it. A normal language, like the one I'm speaking right now, is basically a map. It describes the world, it points to things. But Neuralise, it's designed to be the territory. It's not a description, it's meant to be executable code for your own brain. Okay, so if Neuralise is the new software, the new operating system, you've got a problem. How do you get the hardware, our brains, to actually run it? How do you get the mind into a state where it's even open to this new code? And that brings us to the second pillar of the whole NeuroSoft plan, chemistry. Yeah, they're leaning heavily on the work of the legendary chemist Alexander Shulgin. And they've used certain psychoactive compounds not as, recreational drugs, but as incredibly precise pharmacological access keys. Think of them as syntax modulators, tools that can temporarily rewrite the brain's rules of engagement. And their process for this is just fascinating. What they're doing is feeding Shulgin's actual physical lab notebooks into an AI, and the AI's job is to hunt for patterns, connecting the dots between chemical structures, dosages, and all of these incredibly subjective reports of the effects. It's this wild bridge between hard, objective data and the deeply personal human experience. And wow, this quote from one of those reports, "Everything I touched felt like molten silk, epidermal ecstasy." It just perfectly nails what they're after. This shows you that these chemical keys, they aren't just about changing your thoughts. They're about unlocking these profoundly different, almost alien ways of perceiving the world. So we've got the language, we've got the chemical keys. how does a radical theory like this actually get out into the world? How do you put it into practice? Well, this brings us to the third, and let's be honest, probably the weirdest part of the whole NeuroSoft plan, a bizarre media empire called Foggy Dew fungi. I want you to think of Foggy Dew fungi as something like a real-world Marvel Cinematic Universe, but for mushrooms. Seriously, this isn't just some mushroom farm. It's a live, ongoing performance. It's a platform for practicing neuralese out in the open by turning the process of growing fungi into this massive, evolving story. And the whole structure of the narrative, the whole project, is designed to mimic the life cycle of the fungi themselves. You see the cycle of decay, insight, and bloom. It's this constant process of decay and rebirth. Old ideas and storylines have to break down so that new, more powerful insights can bloom and push the entire story forward. And this world, this story, it's populated by these incredible groups that just embody the whole NeuroSoft ethos of creative rebellion. You've got the Bikini Gang, described as syntax bombs in halter tops. You've got San Francisco's first moped gang, the Creatures of the Loin. And then there's the analog futurist band Add N to X, whose music is literally the soundtrack for this whole thing. But here's the absolute key to making this work. The audience. You're not just a passive viewer watching a show. No way. You are an active participant. People are voting on what to name the mushrooms. They're co-creating this mediated reality that, for the people who are really deep in it, can actually start to feel more real than reality itself. All right, so let's put it all together. You've got a new programming language for the mind, you have the chemical keys to unlock the hardware, and you have this massive cultural engine to spread the code. So what's the end game? What is the ultimate mission here? Well, their mission is nothing less than something they call cognitive terraforming. And just so we're crystal clear on this isn't about changing one person's mind. It's a deliberate, systematic project to reshape the entire collective landscape of human thought. At the very heart of all this, it's the pursuit of, and I love this phrase, recursive goddamn liberation. It's this incredibly radical vision rooted in the idea of neurological sovereignty, the idea that every single person has the right to choose how they alter their own mind to free their own consciousness from its old, outdated programming. So, NeuroSoft's experiment, this crazy wild fusion of mycology, AI, and guerrilla media. I mean, whether you think it's brilliant or dangerous or just flat out insane, it leaves us with a pretty fundamental question about the future of our own consciousness. And that question is, if you could rewrite your own mind's operating system, what would you code?